I'm a deep-sea diver. The agency, officially the Oceanographic Research and Exploration Agency, ORIE for short, handed us a dangerous list of rules. Above all, one rule stands. We do not talk about the first deep-sea research station. People forget ORIE screens for absolute obedience. You do not want to know what happens to divers who fail. For our sake, the truth must get out. The public deserves to know what they truly do down here, hidden beneath the waves. It should have been the greatest moment of my life, the pinnacle I'd prepared for since childhood. As I type this, something no one may ever read. This is the last memory I choose to hold. I recall it clearly, the view from the submersible as we neared the Deep-Sea Research Station 2. It was the second greatest sight of my life, surpassed only by my first look at the abyssal plain. Growing up in a coastal town, the ocean was in my blood. My father worked at the local Marine Institute, tracking migration patterns. My mother worked for a non-profit, aiding pollution-affected communities. Dad loved all things ocean, and I was at the Marine Science Museum before I could properly walk. He always said my 3-year-old eyes lit up at the displays, and he knew I'd end up by the sea. They nurtured my love for the ocean and its mysteries. At 18, I joined the Navy. I earned my engineering license, studied marine biology, and became a sub-engineer by 24. I planned a career with a private exploration company, or oil rig. Then, a letter arrived, changing everything. It was from ORIE. They wanted me for the brand new Deep-Sea Research Station 2. I was speechless, a lifelong dream appearing on paper. I read the letter 100 times, trying to believe it. I called immediately, telling them I was honored. I spent the next year readying for the deep. Boot camp was tough, engineering school harder, but nothing prepared me for abyss training, high-pressure simulations, submersible control practice, a rigorous exercise routine. 60 candidates competed for 40 spots. I was told if I passed, a spot was mine. The program head, an old deep-sea veteran, was eager to get the right people into the dark. I saw the nepotism, but my excitement was real. 14 months, 2 weeks, and 6 days later, I strapped into a submersible with the first 8. The descent sequence became second nature. As we launched from the surface toward the ocean floor, it felt like I'd done it my whole life. When I first saw my new home, the DSRS-2, I knew I belonged. It's larger than the first, capable of holding 4 times the crew, 40 full-time staff. It had operated for about 5 years, its construction well underway before the first research station's disaster. DSRS-1 still sat nearby, half buried in sediment, a barnacle-covered relic next to a gleaming new vessel. The DSRS-2 crew scavenged it for parts, but they were careful what they took and how deep they went. No one knew why. Salvage details were secret, known only to Captain Elias Thorne, the station head. Most knew only that something happened on DSRS-1, killing 9 crewmen. Upper brass wanted no repeat, especially with a larger station and higher potential death toll. As we docked, I watched the old relic. I wondered if someday someone would see my station as a pile of broken metal. Captain Thorne met us in the hangar. A middle-aged man, stormy gray hair in a no-nonsense crew cut. He surveyed us, flanked by security officers. He seemed to approve. He looked like any other high-ranking officer I'd seen. It felt comforting, a known quantity. I could work with that. He cleared his throat. "Welcome aboard. I'm Captain Elias Thorne. You'll serve under me for your tour on Deep-Sea Research Station 2. We house 20 now. With you 40, we'll be full. Some will join Chief Engineer Morales' Engineer Corps, some Dr. Anya Sharma's Science Corps, a few security under me. No matter where, consider yourselves one team, one family. We help each other, ensure the station's safety. Engineers, follow arrows left, science staff right, security with me." We split. My first day on DSRS-2 began. Chief Engineer Morales, another past Navy diver, was the best supervisor I'd had. calm, reassuring. My 15-strong engineering corps proudly worked under him. He put us in 3-man groups, 3 engineers per section. We worked like busy bees, fixing what kept the ship floating. Working deep sea felt odd at first, but you adapt fast. Some areas have simulated gravity, mostly pods, under rotating sections. The rest, you free float. My engineering job meant rigging systems, fixing consoles. We ventured outside sometimes for exterior problems. Deep sea excursions needed high clearance only for emergencies. The station typically housed around 60 people, 35 scientists, 15 engineers, 10 security personnel. Why so much security? My first week showed me scientists, brilliant as they were, got passionate. Fights erupted. Security constantly settled disagreements. We engineers mostly stayed out of sector drama, but often witnessed spirited debates. The science team did the real work. I loved the bioluminescent labs, rigging systems, fixing pressure regulators. It felt like an alien world on Earth. They always developed new things, most over my head. My hands grease, not green, but I grasped. They studied organisms surviving extreme deep-sea conditions, focus, hydrothermal vents, but also deep ocean colonization. Bioluminescent labs supplied most station oxygen, crucial. One early excursion, installing thicker plating there, protection from anything down there. Lab 2, the engineering bay, felt more familiar. They developed hypothetical submersibles, vessels surviving crushing pressures for long periods, traveling far on little energy. I understood much of the science. Rarely had I designed a vessel for Earth's surface pressures. They built prototypes on site. My teammates often pulled me away from scientists, picking my brain. Lab 3. Long-term food sustainment. Engineers making an ecosystem. We knew isolated habitats needed sustainable food. Meals, snacks, nutrient-rich algae paste. They built self-sustaining bioreactors. Hard to find and easy to store, easy to replicate nutrient base for long journeys. Lab 4. Surface problems. Think tanks for plastic pollution, ocean acidification. They developed compounds for microplastic removal, enzymes for oil spills. Not much practical work, mostly hypothetical, but they worked hard. Lab 5. Deep sea sonar broadcasting. They needed our help most. They wanted something to return their signals. A broadcast, so much equipment. Weird tech, always breaking. Old stuff, often unfixable. With all this to tend, 6 months in the deep passed in a blink. Then they sent us to DSRS-1. At shift start, 4 of us reported to Captain Thorne's office. He read reports, weighing something heavy. He looked at us, fingers steepled. I felt judged, hoped I wasn't in trouble. "Gentlemen," he boomed, "this job is critical. Follow it to the letter. No wiggle room. You'll go to DSRS-1, remove 3 large sensor arrays from the northern face. Broadcast needs them. They lost theirs to a seismic shift. Without salvage, new ones won't arrive for 3 weeks. So follow the station rules." He raised a finger, his gaze sharp. 1. Under no circumstances, enter DSRS-1 for any reason. A second finger joined. 2. Do your best not to look at the station while you work. A third finger rose. 3. Whatever you may or may not see on the DSRS is not to return with you. Speak of it to no one. Best left in the antechamber of your mind when you return. Understood? We nodded. It felt strange. What did he fear we'd see? It was abandoned. Only old debris should remain. The more I thought, the stranger the request. In the small shuttle, I shared my concern. Finn, Liam, Chloe were with me. Good friends all. Finn, an engineer from Caltech, specializing in marine robotics like me, also familiar with Lab 2's intense questions. Liam, retired Coast Guard, bragged about salvage. Chloe, Army Corps of Engineers, built in disaster zones, great at rigging things fast. They shrugged. Just standard procedure, probably part of our NDAs. His show, his rules, Liam said. Still, unease lingered as we reached the station and docked. 2 hours to work. Plenty of time. Disembarking. Excitement rushed through me, pushing down any worry. Deep-sea excursions were always cool, hard to feel anxious beyond suit quality, floating through the dark. We hopped across the station's exterior, probably silly to unseen observers. Found the first array easily. Liam worked the cutting torch, Finn helping. Chloe told me to follow her for the second. It was near an observation window. Hard not to look inside. Discarded items floated against the glass. I forced my eyes to the task. Chloe lit her torch, removing bolts. I held the array, not wanting it to drift, but I glanced back. A child's toy submarine floated by the glass. Its painted portholes seemed to beg rescue. The first bolt went, spiraling into currents. A half-eaten ration bar wrapper danced, foil twinkling. Foot on the left, please. It's pulling against the third bolt, Chloe said through comms. I obeyed, turning back. The arc light made me squint. She cut the third bolt. I turned away from the flash, and my gaze went back to the windows. That's when I saw it. A pale humanoid, eyes the color of phosphorescent algae, staring from inside the first deep-sea research station. Its eyes, like the toy submarines, held no expression, but they stared through me, stealing my breath. I screamed. Only I heard it, in the crushing darkness. The last bolt came free. I felt weightless as the array I leaned on broke loose. I tilted, terror propelling me, trying to flee the glowing-eyed thing. I floated into the current with the array, unsure I'd stop. Chloe grabbed my ankle, yanking me and the array back. Easy, kid. Lose your balance. Her voice showed concern. I looked back at the window, wanting to show her. It was gone. Only floating garbage. But the toy submarine was gone too. Whatever it was, it wanted its toy. Neither was anywhere. Kid, you okay? Chloe asked. I nodded. Thanked her. Said I lost my footing. Back on DSRS-2. My head swirled with the creature's image. More questions than answers. Someone waited in the antechamber. Reynolds, chief of security. He looked a Marine commando, not an Oriya officer. 6.5 feet of muscle, arms too big for a submersible suit. Rumors said he was a Navy SEAL, handpicked by Thorne, answering only to him. My boss feared him. The science lead avoided him. Thorne aside, no one rushed to interact. He smiled, blocking the door. His hand on the hatch lever. Pull it. We'd plummet. Successful trip? He asked Chloe. Very. 3 arrays on time. Terrific, he drawled, showing too many teeth. Find anything else out there? Souvenirs? Chloe shook her head. No, as instructed. Good, Reynolds said, hands still on the lever. Decontaminate, then back to work. Lab 5 will get the arrays. Can't be too careful. He let us pass. Chloe sighed deeply at the corridor's end. I wasn't the only one afraid he'd pull that lever. I tried to forget what I saw. I truly did, but it stayed. I'd wake, those piercing phosphorescent eyes watching, remembering everything. I had to know more. What was it? First step, research. The station had vast digital media for research, but little info on the first deep-sea research station. We knew the story. Hit by a massive tremor, tectonic plate collision, shards slammed the station. Sudden, crew barely knew. Cabin depressurized too fast for evacuation. 7 lives lost. 3 women, 4 men, 3 Americans, 2 Japanese, 2 Brazilians. Flipping photos of the deceased, I stopped at a Brazilian. My stomach turned. Dr. Almeida, a scientist studying extreme pressure effects, also ship's doctor. He looked miraculously unchanged for a man who'd been depressurized. Pale skin aside, he seemed perfectly healthy. How many others were there, presumed dead? Was DSRS-1 hiding something? I quietly asked about the old crew. Information was vague, unreliable. Chief Engineer Morales knew one diver, Lieutenant Commander Vance, deep ocean mapping protocol, hush hush. Morales said Aurea prepared manned Mariana Trench missions. A Lab 2 scientist said Dr. Tanaka discussed a new propulsion system with him, improved underwater travel, reduced trip time. A Lab 3 guy emailed Engineer Kowalski about a new bioreactor compound. Their joint research helped his project until the DSRS-1 incident. I talked to many, careful with questions, and careful not to let security see my poking. Why? Well, after Reynolds, I didn't want his attention. I wasn't careful enough. One day, I looked up the incident article. It was altered, deceased names gone. A memo came days later. Interest in the old DSRS was counterproductive. People grew less willing to talk about old times, dead friends. Weeks later, Reynolds again. I fixed a Lab 5 console. He loomed, wrench in hand. Not threatening yet, but his presence, the wrench tapping his palm, put me on edge. He smiled, a sight I rarely saw, unless a fight brewed. Reynolds was the kind of guy who could pet a great white shark to death.
Heard you been asking about the old station, kid. Reynolds called everyone Sport, Bud, or Kid, unless they outranked him.
Yeah, I said, feigning nonchalance, finishing wiring. Any reason? He fiddled with the wrench. Just curious. Writing a report? The wrench hit his palm harder. Why does it matter? I asked, tired of the game. It matters, he said, voice calm, because Captain Thorne doesn't like people looking too closely at the DSRS incident. He lost friends on that station. He doesn't like old wounds picked at. You wouldn't want to upset the cap, would you? His voice never rose, but the wrench, smacking flesh, made the threat clear. I told him I understood. He left. In reality, I wanted to learn more. A deeper mystery lay here. That day, in my bunk, a note was tucked in my pillow. Meet me in the West Passage storage room. I have something you might be interested in. I didn't know who left it, but it had to be a bunkmate. We had keycard access. Finn, Marcus, Davies. A security trap. Why bother? Reynolds had scared me enough. I went. What was there to lose? Storage rooms held extra parts, wires, tools, insulation, no artificial gravity, so bins had plastic covers. Spooky in the West Passage storage. Lights came on. Marcus waited, impatient. Marcus, an old hand, here before me, Chief Engineer Morales' right-hand man. We joked he'd waited for the second station to be built. He knew things about the crew, the compound. Some said he worked on the original station, but no one confirmed it. Heard you asking about the old DSRS, he whispered, floating close. See them on the old station? I nodded. He pressed a small notebook into my hand, floated to the door, said nothing else. Back in my bunk reading, I knew he didn't need to. The notebook confirmed it. I wasn't crazy. Others were in that old station. Thorne knew. Marcus wrote about a deep-sea vent the station studied. Strange extremophile bacteria lived there. Crew experimented with them, taking precautions. But accidents happened. Dr. Tanaka was exposed. His skin turned pale. He was fine. Better. He didn't need to breathe. His new skin, thicker, resilient, not for indefinite deep pressure, but brief exposure was fine. He needed less food. The alien life changed him, evolutionarily. They were fascinated. While experimenting, they made another discovery. The bacteria was infectious. Soon everyone had it. Then Aurea, specifically Captain Thorne, quarantined them. The tectonic plate accident was a cover-up to cut them off, silence them. It also let Aurea experiment on the affected crew. Thorne wanted to test their affliction's limits, then present them to the scientific community as his new deep ocean exploration program, pioneers of the next generation. But now, They were prisoners in DSRS-1. That was why we took the arrays. They tried to send messages. Thorne struggled to keep them quiet. The journal said to destroy it. How could I? It was evidence. I kept it hidden, planning to get the word out. I carried it, always thinking what to do. After a few weeks, I grew careless. No security followed. No Reynolds. I thought it was forgotten. I forgot how easy it was to disappear me, make it an accident. An infinite abyss waited. But fates worse than that existed. It started when I returned to find Marcus gone. Official story, he returned to surface. Family emergency. I knew better. Marcus had no surface family. The station was his home. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. That night, in bed, I wondered how long before they came for me. Not long, I struggled. But the hand over my mouth clamped hard. My crewmates likely slept through my abduction. Flex cuffs bound me before I understood. It hardly mattered. Reynolds came with 2 security guards. They manhandled me like a toddler. Corridors dark as they pushed me. I hadn't questioned cabin soundproofing, but most knew better than to interfere with security. They took me to the antechamber. For a terrifying minute, I feared they'd launch me into the deep. Captain Thorne waited, not triumphant, but disappointed. He sighed. If you wanted to know what was on the old DSRS so badly, kid, all you had to do was ask. I hope your answers were worth it. Reynolds shoved me onto the small carrier for DSRS missions. I knew no quick death awaited. A cold needle slid into my neck, sedative flooding. They pushed me out, toward the station opening. I gasped for seconds. A pale, familiar hand grabbed me. Marcus, undeniably transformed, pulled me into the rotting DSRS-1. Now I am a permanent, unwilling member of the Deep Sea Research Station 1 crew, and, I suppose, of the Deep Ocean Exploration Program. Hopefully, after they've launched us beyond known limits, someone will find this console entry. I hope the truth gets out. People must know my participation was not voluntary. More likely, this log will end up recycled after I'm plankton in the endless crushing darkness of the abyss.